For the last couple of years, the film look has basically taken over photography. And honestly, I get it. Digital photography can sometimes feel a little too perfect and a little too clean. But instead of dropping $2,000 on a new camera, we're gonna fake it using Lightroom. And a little technique using Photoshop that most people ignore to take your photos from this to this. So without further ado, let's jump into Lightroom and spice up those shots. So this is the image that we're gonna be working with. And I haven't done anything to this image yet, except for removed a couple of distractions back here. And I went ahead and added 2 masks to this light just to really brighten that area up. But coming down here to the basics tab, I'm not really gonna do much except for play with the exposure a little bit. Drop the contrast a bit because we will be adding more contrast in the curves tool and we don't want it to be overpowering. And I'm also gonna drop down here to the presence, drop the texture a little bit and the clarity a little bit just to take away from that digital sharpness and those perfect edges and make the image overall a little bit more softer. Now we're gonna go down to the tone curve and we're just gonna keep it simple and draw a classic S curve, lift the blacks up a little bit, drop those shadows, drop the white point and raise those highlights. This is gonna bring back some contrast and also fade out those blacks. Next, we'll go down to color grading. And I like adding a little bit of green into my shadows, like that. And adding some yellow, orangish tones into my highlights. Keep it right there for now. Now, next up is gonna be grain. And a lot of people will just tell you to go down to effects, just slap some grain on there, adjust the size, and you're good to go. Which does work, but I'm gonna take it a little bit further. I'm gonna reset that grain. I'm gonna add 1 mask, the luminance range. I'm gonna drop that down so that the deepest shadows and blacks are selected, and we're gonna feather this out up top just so it's a gradient change and not an abrupt stop. Now we're gonna go down and find our grain again, and now we're gonna add some grain. What this does, it just adds more grain into the deepest parts of the photo just to give it a little bit more realism like actual film. Play with the amount and the size. Now, grain size is a preference thing. I like my grain a little bit more smaller, a little bit more subtle, but I know a lot of people like that punch you in your face grain. Let me know what kind of grain you like. Okay, so we're looking good so far. We took our image from this to this. So now we're ready to export this shot and upload it to Instagram, right? Wrong. We're gonna take it one step further and bring this into Photoshop. We're gonna right click, edit in Photoshop. But before you have a breakdown and a full-blown panic attack, trust me, you will not need a degree in rocket science. It's super simple and I'll be here to guide you every step of the way. But before we take this from a great edit to an amazing edit, make sure to hit the like button if this has helped you so far. Okay, here in Photoshop, the first thing we're gonna do is duplicate the background layer. And you can either do that by right-clicking and duplicate layer, or you can hit Command J if you're on Mac. Then what we're gonna do is convert this to a smart object. We're gonna go up to Image, Adjustments, and Threshold. This is gonna isolate the brightest highlights in our image. And we're basically looking for just this light source back here to be selected. So we're gonna move the threshold slider until all that paper disappears. Till right there. Click OK. Now we're gonna go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And you can play around with this setting. I'm gonna keep it at around 25 to 30, somewhere right there. But because we set this layer to a smart filter, you will be able to go back later and change each of these parameters. So don't freak out if you don't like your selection, you can always change that later. We're gonna click OK, and nothing happens. That's because we have to change the blend mode. We're gonna go down here and change it from normal to screen. And now you can see we already got the first part of our sauce dialed in, and that's Film at Bloom, which blooms out the highlights back here on the light source and adds this beautiful glow to them. But a word of advice, this technique in Photoshop only really works if you have a direct light source in your image. That's why I added those masks to the light in Lightroom. If you don't have a direct light source, this is just really gonna look weird and not really good. It's gonna look like you don't really know what you're doing. So if you don't have a direct light source in your image, I would skip this Photoshop part altogether and just use the Lightroom image you created earlier. The next step is gonna be to go up here to Layer, New Fill Layer, and a solid color. Click OK. And we're gonna want a reddish color like that. click OK. Then we're gonna right click our new layer and click create clipping mask. That's gonna connect it to the layer that we just made and use the same smart filters. But you're probably thinking, this doesn't look right. Now the whole picture is just red. That's because we have to change the blend mode again. We're gonna go over here from normal and change it to overlay. And now you can't really tell, and now you can't really see a whole lot what happened, but if you zoom in on this part of the image right over here, you can see we added a red border right here, which is another characteristic of film called halation. And again, we can come back down and play with our settings to really dial it in and find something that we like. And I'm gonna leave it, I'm gonna increase the blur radius a little bit, but because this is too much red for me down here, I'm gonna add a layer mask, click my brush, make sure it's set to black, just paint away some of the red on the inside so it's not so overpowering. Just enough so we get this subtle red outline right here. And if you don't know, B is your brush tool. And if you go down here to these colors, they should be black and white. I don't know why that one's pink, but you have black and white. Black basically hides the effect and white shows the effect. Now with that, we can just hit save, Command S, and close Photoshop. And that's gonna send the image from Photoshop back into Lightroom. As you can see, the edits we made in Photoshop are right here. So this is where we're gonna export the image, upload it to Instagram, and watch nobody like it because Instagram's dead for photographers. If this video helped you out at all, make sure you hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe for more tips and tricks. And if you have any questions about Lightroom, let me know in the comments. I might be able to help you out. And until then, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.